Today I'm going to be showing you how to cite sources within Google Docs. So in this example, I've got my National History Day bibliography page open. So in this document, I would be storing all of my sources. You could technically put your assignment and your sources in the same document. I choose not to, and I'll explain why. So in this document, it's blank right now, but I've got some tabs open up here and a book on my desk that unfortunately you can't see because my camera's not working very well. That I'm going to show you how to cite today. So the first source I want to show you is from Britannica. So this is the article that I found here that talks about my topic, and I'm going to cite it so I can use it in my project. Now, with a lot of these encyclopedias and databases that we're going to be using, what you're going to see is a cite button here. You always want to make sure that you're looking at the right place. So this bounces forth between MLA, APA, and Chicago. You're probably used to using the MLA most. That's the Modern Language Association, and it's what West Valley uses most of the time. But since I'm an historian, I'm going to switch to Chicago. So the nice thing about this is that the computer will generate this citation for you. The problem is it's not always correct. So like right in here, you can see they spelled encyclopedia wrong. That's not good. So I'm not going to copy this because it's not correct. And sometimes you just have to kind of trust that you yourself, that you know what you're looking at. If you need some help, of course, ask your teacher. So I'm not going to copy this one by using this. I'm going to go ahead and use the more manual option. So I've got the web link copied. I'm going to go back to my Google Doc. I'm going to click the tools tab up here at the top, and I'm going to click citations. So once I click citations, it's going to open a bar here on the right, and I'm going to get to choose between MLA, APA, and Chicago. For my purposes, I'm going to use Chicago, but it will automatically change to whichever one you choose. So we're going to go ahead and click Add Citation Source. This first one is a website. So we're going to click Website, and we're going to go ahead and put the URL in. Now, what this does is this pulls up all the information that it can find. You can see it's got the URL, the published date. The only thing it's missing is the contributors. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue, and I'm going to see here that it's going to ask me to put in contributors for this article. So I go back to it, and I can see that it's by the authors or the editors of Encyclopedia Britannica. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to switch this from an individual person under author to corporation or organization. I'm going to put Encyclopedia Britannica. I can never spell Britannica correctly. So once I've got that in there, I'm going to look through the rest of it just to make sure it's correct. It's got the link there. It's got the date that I looked at it first. It's got the date it was published. So once everything is in there that I can put in there, I'm going to go ahead and hit Add Citation. So what this does is it adds the citation in there in alphabetical order since it's the first one, it's up at the top. So once I've got that done, I'm going to go to my next tab, which is the History Channels link for the Sykes-Picot Agreement. So again, I'm going to hit Control-C and copy the link. I'm going to go to Add Citation Source. Again, this is a website, so I'm going to search for a website. Now, the History Channel usually does a pretty good job of including the bibliographic information at the bottom, but not always. So this one you can see is history.com editors. It's published by A&E Television Networks. So I'm going to flip back over and see that it's maybe I did that wrong. Sometimes I get excited and I click too fast. So, or sometimes I hit cite manually instead of the continue button. So you can see it brings it up here. So the author is history.com editors. Everything's up here. The published day is the 28th of June. And I should go back and look. I thought I had that. 28th of July, excuse me. July in 2019. So I can see that it's been, it automatically pulls the date that you looked at it, or, today. I have everything I need, so I'm going to go ahead and add citation source, and it'll spit it out right there. So next we're going to go to a map that I found in the Library of Congress. This one's a little bit trickier because the Library of Congress has a lot of information, and not always is it useful. Sometimes the sources are being used in different ways. So like you can see here, this has a map that talks about what was done in 1916, but it wasn't created until 1964. So you have to look at, primary and secondary uses there. But the Library of Congress also has a citation button. Sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not. I personally prefer to, again, use my own. You probably could trust this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it myself. So I'm going to copy the link up here, and I'm going to go back and do the same thing. Except this is technically a miscellaneous item, but it's easier if you cite it as a website because you found it online. So you hit search, and then the same thing, it's going to ask you for the published year and the contributor. So this is where you have to be a little bit more selective. So we're going to be looking for an author, and it doesn't really say. Sometimes you have to scroll all the way down. Sometimes the name will be here. Sometimes there won't be. It just depends. This one, there doesn't seem to be a name, but it does say up here the Great Britain's Foreign Office. So that makes sense because that's the government department that makes maps. So I'm going to switch to an organization. So the Great Britain, excuse me. Great Britain. Can't spell Britain today. Because I'm making a video. So Great Britain Foreign Office, published day. This is where also sometimes you have to look because this doesn't have a year on it, or a date, it just has a year. So what we're going to do is just put 1964 because sometimes that's all we have. It still has the date I accessed it. It's got the title here. So you're going to add citation source, and there it is. And you can see that it's putting them in alphabetical order based on what they are. So when you take a look at the rest of it, we have everything in there that we can. So sometimes there's a lot of information and sometimes there's a little. So last one we're going to look over is at this Al Jazeera news article. It looks like it's an interactive one. And it's got some cool maps that I'm going to look at. There's talks about the two diplomats who made the agreement. And there's a timeline. So I really like this as a secondary source. So what I'm going to do is the same thing as I did before, is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add a citation source. This is it's not really a newspaper article because it's published online. So Al Jazeera is a news site, not a newspaper. So we're going to stick with our website. We're going to hit search. So you can see it's missing the year and the contributor. So we're going to have to do that again. Oops, I keep clicking on the wrong one. Sometimes these big projects like this don't have an individual author, but sometimes they do. And if they do, it's usually at the top or the bottom. So all I can see here is that this was produced by Al Jazeera. So I'm going to go back to my sources, and I'm just going to switch it to Al Jazeera because that is all that we have. It's aljazeera.com, so we'll leave that blank probably because it's already there. I can see that this was published, may not have a publication date. So this particular one does not have a publication date. So what I usually do in this case is just put the current year because that's, when I found it. So 2022, and then add citation source. Now, if I find more information later, I can always go back and edit these. So these are the sources that are digital. So now I want to enter a book. So I'm going to click add citation source again. This is a book. It's going to be a print book because I have it in my hand. If it was through a website or online database, I would choose those. I'm also going to use the ISBN number to search instead of typing everything, the whole title out. So the ISBN is usually located on the inside pages of the book or on the back next to the barcode. So I'm just going to enter that number real fast and search. I'm going to see that this is pulls up this information for that book number, and I can see, yep, this is the book I have. So I'm going to hit continue. It's already all here. I can look and see that there is a city and state listed, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that in there. It's always best to put information if you have it. This is the 7th edition, but 7th, and go ahead and add citation source, and it's there. So that covers the book that you can't see because my camera's not working. But you can also see here too that if you want to, let's say you're done with your paper and you want to hit insert, you just click this insert references, and it puts all of your sources in here. Now you will have to massage this a little bit just because like this technically, because Google does things that aren't correct with the information when it pulls it. Again, you got to remember a computer's doing it. So these should be single spaced, and you have to put a space. Now, if you're doing this for History Day specifically, you would also need to include the annotation here. So this would be like where I used this source to learn more, and then put in why it was helpful to you. So this one talks about the Balfour Declaration. This helped me to understand why this agreement was so controversial and is still important today. Important today in Middle East politics. So I only know that because I looked at that article. So that would be where your annotation would go. So that's how you would do that. The other cool thing that citing this does, like let's say you had your paper here and you needed to include an in-text citation for one of your sources. If you just click cite, it will do it for you in the correct format, and it does it based on any type of site. So you can see like that was a website. This is the Encyclopedia Britannica. So it just puts it in there, whatever it is. So that's really helpful. Sometimes if it's a book, you'll have to include the physical page number. But that's how you do that. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to help, and good luck with your research.